Hello, I'm Steve Lyons, and I want to talk to you today about the United Way organization. Now, a few years ago, I was asked to be part of the loaned executive program of the company I worked for. And what that means is I was loaned out and offered to help with putting together their fund drive to collect donations. And as part of the introduction to that process, I had the opportunity to visit several of the United Way agency's organizations as part of the introduction. And I have to say that it was an eye-opening experience for me. I visited the East Tennessee Children's Hospital Rehabilitation Center, where I saw them fitting a leg brace to the crooked leg of a small child, one of many braces the child would need over its lifetime, certainly something its family could never afford to do. And that brace and that process would literally be the difference between barely being ever able to walk properly and probably even being a burden to society, and one day being able to run and play with normal kids like a normal child. There was also the safe house I visited, where abused and neglected children were taken when they were removed from abusive homes. And I'll never forget that experience when I walked through the two locked doors to get into the facility. And as I was waiting in the foyer for the security and director of the facility to come and get me, I noticed the painting words on the wall of "You are now safe." And I'll never forget the impact that had on me, and I want you to think about what it would be like to be a child who never felt safe in their own home. A child who didn't feel safe with his parents, who felt neglected, starved, maybe physically abused, many of them physically abused. I mean, think about what that would be like and how hard that would be. And then also, I'll tell you a little more about the experience as I walked through the facility. I can remember and will never forget the haunted, fearful looks of the children as they encountered another stranger in their lives, me walking through the facility. Really tore at my heart, and it was a gut-wrenching experience. So I have a question for you. How many people, with a show of hands, know 5 people? Come on, everybody knows 5 people. Thank you. How many of you know 5 people well enough that you would do just about anything for? Family members, kids, mother, father, brothers, sisters. Come on, 5 people you love. 5 people that you would give up your time for, that you would give money to, that you may even lay down your life to help. We all have 5 people we feel that way about. Now I want you to know that, in case you don't, that 1 in 5 people will get support from the United Way. That's 1 in 5. That means that it's likely somebody you know will need support or help from one of the United Way agencies. United Way helps over 75,000 people every year. United Way supports 45 agencies representing 132 individual programs. Agencies like the American Red Cross. You don't have to be poor to need the Red Cross. Meals on Wheels for the elderly. And I want to talk about my experience there just a little bit. I helped do that, deliver food. And what struck me is not only are those people starved for food, that one meal that we were able to provide for them every day, but they were equally starved for the attention that we brought. The fact that somebody, a human contact, knocked on the door, said hello, maybe even gave them a hug, because many of these people have been doing it for years and have been servicing the same clients and going to the same homes, and they were friends, and they provided that support, and those people were just as starved for that as they were for the food that we brought. Boys and Girls Clubs, Second Harvest Food Bank, Helen Ross McNabb Rehabilitation Center, Child and Family Services are all agencies supported by the United Way. I think we can all agree very important agencies. Now I know that it can sometimes feel like charities for the poor, and the poor should just get jobs and take care of themselves. And I say that with some conviction because I once too felt that way. I can remember before I was a loan executive, my company has always been a big supporter of the United Way, and so every year we would do our own annual drive in our departments. And I can remember it fell to me as a supervisor to put together a speech and solicit those contributions. And I can remember one night at home putting together my spiel, trying to get people to participate, and my mother was there. And I must have made some comment under my breath, or maybe out loud, I don't really remember, but I made some comment about not wanting to have to do it, that I didn't think it was fair, that, again, I thought people should just go get jobs, take care of themselves, because I was taking care of my family, and I took care of myself. And my mother became indignant. In fact, she was appalled that I would feel that way, that I had that attitude. And she reminded me of the time that our house burnt down when I was a child. And I can remember coming home to that burnt-out shell when they finally allowed us to come inside. And I remember looking around at what was left of it. And I remember feeling lost. I can remember feeling fearful of what was going to happen to us. Going into my room to try to find anything left that was mine. And there was nothing. No toys, no clothes, my dresser, burnt shell, charcoal, just a big lump on the floor. And I remember how I felt about that. But I also remember the van, as my mom went through, it reminded me of the story, of the United Way van that pulled up and picked us all up and took us down to the Salvation Army, where they literally, it was closed, they literally opened the doors and said, everybody pick out outfits so we had clothes to wear. And then let us go over to pick toys and stuff that we could claim to say that this is mine. That, yeah, maybe everything else is lost, but this belongs to me. Because they realized that that's what we needed. We needed to feel that we had control of something in our lives. But then I'm also, I can be grateful for what they did for me, but probably more so, as my mom told the story, I realized what support they had provided her and how important that was. Some other things I'd like you to know about the United Way. The United Way really focuses on three critical areas, three critical groups. Number one are children at risk. I told you some about the agencies I visited with them. Troubled teens, another group they focus on, and then vulnerable seniors are really three areas they focus on. And those are groups that we can all agree that really can't help themselves. I also, though, believe that it's in our best interest to help those who are down on their luck, who need some support. And I visited the rescue mission. I also visited the Salvation Army, and they provide job skills training. They provide clothes and showers and meals so that you can get back on your feet and that you can go for job interviews and so that you can find a job. So if you've ever walked by a person and said, somebody begging or homeless, and said, get a job, or even just thought that, then you got to support the agencies, because those are the agencies that will try to make that happen and help those people. I have another question. How many of you would help a small child, small, hungry, starving child, if you found them on the street? I think everybody would. I mean, we're all human. We can see suffering, and none of us want to allow it. But I want you to know that small, starving children do exist in our town, in our community. I've seen them. I've seen them at the shelters and at the locations where they go to get maybe at least one good meal a day provided by the United Way. And they can't survive without the support of our community and without our support. So imagine that hungry, crying, starving child now as you think about whether or not you want to support the United Way. Imagine if that agency couldn't exist, or if any of the agencies I mentioned, if they couldn't exist. Imagine no Red Cross, no Emergency Rescue Squad, or no Meals on Wheels for the elderly. Then it would fall to each of us to shoulder the burden of providing that support individually. Imagine how hard that would be. But as it stands now, we have options. We can all band together and share that burden by supporting this worthy cause, supporting the United Way. They'll do all the work. All they ask from us is some financial support. And I don't think that's too much to ask. If you can't afford to give money, that's no excuse. They need volunteers. They'll take help. You can volunteer to deliver food to the elderly. You can work projects. You can be a big brother, big sister. You can give blood. Those are all ways that you can support your community. Now imagine that starving, hungry child is a smiling child and a grateful elderly neighbor, knowing that they had support when they needed it most. And then I want to ask you, implore you, to be a hero. Help a child, help an elderly person, help a friend, support the United Way. Thank you.